Matt Webster, and farming at Hopetoun in the Mallee. Our farm is approximately somewhere between 3,500 to 4,000 hectares. Just basic farming in the Mallee: wheat, barley, lupins, vetch. Just got into lentils in the last couple of years, so do oat and hay as well. Our ground tends to be a little bit lighter north of Hopetoun here, so we've got a lot of ups and downs throughout the paddocks. We don't have flat paddocks here, so the tops of the hills seem to get a little bit bare, and so we're just really trying to look after them. Yeah. In terms of the vulnerable soils on our farm, we tend to find that they're up the top of the rises. Our ground's a lot lighter here north of Hopetoun, so a lot of variability through the paddock, and the tops of the hills are probably where our vulnerable points are. So the biggest problems we tend to have with our vulnerable soils is obviously erosion, and then off the back of that down the bottom of the hill on the flat we're starting to see the Mallee seeps, which is what sort of we've dedicated our time towards trying to fix. I guess it's important to us to try and put the time and effort into fixing these spots, because through direct drilling we've been able to produce a lot more off our ground, but the vulnerable soils and the seeps is what's getting worse. Well, I guess what we're seeing over time is the tops of the hills are becoming more vulnerable, and the seeps down the bottom of the hills are getting bigger, and that's why we're trying to combat those with to reverse that, I guess. So the management strategies we tend to work with on the tops of the hills is deep ripping. We've tried to obviously try and bring a little bit of clay up, and also with the straw processor that we invested in a couple of years ago, we were using that purely on the seeps, but this year we've done trials to put that on top of the dune as well, to potentially try and capture the moisture up the top a little bit better. So from our trial work this year with using the straw spreader on the top of the dune, we've been able to capture some fantastic data on losses, on the amount of topsoil that's been able to be captured by that straw or not lost to erosion, which has been fantastic. Definitely with the straw spreading, I think it's got the potential to be widespread over bigger areas. At the moment we're concentrating on the seeps, and this year with the top of the dune as well. But I guess it's got the potential, or within time, I guess it's the time constraints that really hold us back with the amount that we're able to do. In terms of the yield returns, I guess we're probably not up to that stage yet in terms of what we've been doing on our seeps. We're definitely getting a better establishment crop-wise, like where before you'd sow through the seep and nothing had come up. We're finding where the straw is sitting on that seep, once we sow through it, it's actually germinating, and I guess there would be a little return there, but it's kind of not where we're up to in the journey just yet. We're more looking at just getting them covered up, getting some organic matter back into that seep, and try and reduce the size of it. So through our experience with the soak, we're really hoping to replicate that up on top of the dune. They tend not to germinate very good either, so by spreading the straw over it, we're hoping to get a better germination versus the control that's got no straw. So we're really trying to pump up the organic matter, where we use the straw, and we'll really see this year how it goes. To protect the dune, I guess really it's identifying the vulnerable dune as soon as possible. The one that we had with our control site, it was a brown manure, and it got overgrazed. So we identified that, and we used that as the trial site, I guess. And through our data collection with the trial site, it was really important to be on the dune as soon as you could. So as soon as you identified it as being vulnerable, get the straw spread on it to save that topsoil from blowing away, and then also that protected all the organisms and all that sort of thing through the whole summer, protected that soil for the whole summer, and obviously it gives you the best chance of it breaking down before the next crop. So in terms of the strategy that we're using to cover the seeps is just getting out there, obviously between harvesting cropping whenever we can. This year it's going to be pushed very late due to all the summer spraying that we've had to do. We're hoping to get back out soon and cover them all up again. So I guess, yeah, just whenever you can get out there to get it done, as long as you can get it done, it should help. It was the erosion that we didn't want over the summer off the seeps. So the seeps tend to blow as well. So especially if the seeps that had stock on them, you see that the wind blows that real salty ground into the crop, and so there's another metre blowing to the edge of the seep and getting caught in the stubble. So I guess if we can get on there straight away after harvest, get them covered up, purely just to stop that erosion over the summer and stop them getting bigger. Hopefully again draw it back in, use the plants to draw it down. Yeah, I think on the seeps, they tend to dry out and go really hard on top. We sort of talk about them as a reverse dam bank. So it's upside down and it sets that hard, the water can't get out. So we tend to find wherever the straw sits, we pull it back and the dirt is actually moist, and we think it just helps it breathe, so it just doesn't set hard. So we're finding that we're actually probably evaporating more moisture from that soak all summer rather than it just setting hard and trapping that moisture underneath. Over the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 years, we're hoping that by continually spreading the straw on the same areas, on the seeps, on the tops of the hills, they start to reproduce for us, and they turn those bits of ground into non-vulnerable areas on our farm. Hopefully the seeps reduce, and then we can actually wind back the amount of straw that we have to put out every year, or we can focus on another area as well. So yeah, that's what our big hope is.